Guru Gaurachandra Ji ki jai, Jai Shri Giriraj Govardhan Ji ki jai, Jai Srimati Tulsi Devi ki jai, Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Pari Brajaka Acharya Astatar Siddhi Sriman Srila Bhakti Sundar Govindadev Goswami Maharaj ki jai, Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Pari Brajaka Acharya Astatar Siddhi Sriman Srila Bhakti Rakak Sri Dardev Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Hari Bo, welcome to Sri Caitanya Saraswat Mission morning class. Dandavat. Vandeham Shri Guru Sri Jata Paragamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavangscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vidangstam Sajivam Sadvetam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vidangscha Om Agyana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Shri Caitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Svapadantikam. Haribo. Jai Sri Caitanya Charitamrita. We are continuing. We're coming to the conclusion of the 24th chapter. Oh, we're not. I thought we were, but we are not. But here is the explanation of the Atmarama verse. And Mahaprabhu has concluded these 61 interpretations, meaning bringing out 61 different meanings in so many words and so many combinations of words. And now Srila Sanatana Goswami is praising Mahaprabhu. And Mahaprabhu is saying, why are you glorifying me personally? You should understand the transcendental position of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Why don't you consider this important point? The Bhagavatam is the Bhagavatam. It's so transcendentally wonderful. What's that got to do with me? Haribo. Jai Jai Sri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhaktivinoda Sri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhaktivinoda Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj ki jai. Srila Om Vishnupad A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki jai. Verse number 318. Krishna Tuya Bhagavata Vibhus Sarvashraya Pratishloke Prati Akshare Nanya Artakaya. Srimad Bhagavatam is as great as Krishna, the Supreme Lord, and shelter of everything. The Srimad Bhagavatam is as great as Krishna, the Supreme Lord and shelter of everything, in each and every verse of the Srimad Bhagavatam, and in each and every syllable. There are various meanings. Prasnotare Bhagavate Karyache Nirdara Jahara Shravane Loke Lagi Chamatkara. You guys know what Chamatkara means? It means astonishing or astonished. This is a word that comes out quite a lot. The form of Srimad Bhagavatam is given in question and answers. Thus the conclusion is established. By hearing these questions and answers, one is highly astonished. So Bhagavatam is presented in that form. Someone goes to someone and someone is asking a question and someone's giving it, and so many stories are there. And very lovely. Bruhuye Yogeshwara Krishna Brahmanye Dharma Varmani Swankastam Aduno Pete Dharmakam Sharanam Gata. Now that Sri Krishna, the Absolute Truth, the master of all mystic powers, has departed for his own abode, please tell us by whom religious principles are presently protected. This is a question, a quotation. Now that Krishna has left the world, who is protecting the principles of religion? This is a verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, was a question raised by all the sages who were headed by Shonaka. You know this circumstance? Shonaka Rishi was the head of all the rishis who were assembled for a sacrifice to mitigate the influence of Kali Yuga. And when Sutta Goswami went there, they immediately gave him the seat as the presider because of they could tell from his position. And then they're asking him this question. Now that Lord Krishna, Sri Krishna, the Absolute Truth, the Master of all mystic powers, has departed for his own abode, he has disappeared from the earth, please tell us by whom religious principles are presently protected. They don't know. So they're asking Sutta Goswami, who had just heard the Bhagavatam from Sukadeva Goswami. This verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam was a question raised by all the sages who were headed by Shonaka. This question was put before the great devotee Sutta Goswami, is the foremost of the 6 questions that were raised by them. The answer to this important question is given in the next verse, also from Srimad Bhagavatam 1:3. That was 1:2. Krishna swadhamapagate dharmagyanya dibisaha kalau nashta dushamesha puranarko dunodita. After Lord Krishna departed for his own abode, along with religious principles and transcendental knowledge, this Purana, the Srimad Bhagavatam, has arisen like the sun in this age of Kali to enlighten those who have no spiritual vision. So what was the answer? After Krishna has left for his own abode, then who is protecting the principles of religion? Yes, it's risen like the sun. E mata kahilo ekashlokera vyakyana vatulera pralapa kari ke kare pramana. In this way, like a madman, I have explained the meaning of just one verse. I do not know who will take this as evidence. So he's saying, this Bhagavatam, every single verse is like that. He's saying, in all these verses in the whole Srimad Bhagavatam there, you see that, right? Every syllable has so many meanings. He's saying, I've only talked about the Atmarama verse in the Srimad Bhagavatam. That is from the Srimad Bhagavatam. The whole Bhagavatam is like this. In this way, like a madman, I've explained the meaning of just one verse. He says, I do not know who will take this as evidence, but there it is. Amahena jeba keha vatulaha. Amahena jeba keha vatulahaya. Edishte bhagavatera artha janaya. If one becomes a madman like me, he may also understand the meaning of the Srimad Bhagavatam by this process. Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu plainly explains that Srimad Bhagavatam cannot be understood by those who are materially situated. In other words, one has to become a madman, like Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, mad from the point of view of a materialist. Apart from being the Supreme Personality of Godhead, apart from being the Personality of Godhead, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu is an acharya who exhibited love of God like a madman. According to his own written verse, Yugaitam Nimishena, he says that for him a moment seems to last for 12 years. Chakshusha pravrishaitam. My tears are flowing like torrents of rain. Sunyaitam jagat sarvam. I feel like the entire universe were vacant, empty. Govinda virareha, vi harena me. due to my being separated from Govinda, Krishna. Hare Krishna. So, this is actually a fine point Srila Prabhupada is making. If we really want to understand the Srimad Bhagavatam, we have to try to follow in the prescribed method given by Mahaprabhu. It is Mahaprabhu who can fully relish the Srimad Bhagavatam. So, and how? By so much devotion to Krishna that a moment's separation feels like 12 years. So only from a due to inconceivable devotion, pure devotion to Krishna can one really understand the Srimad Bhagavatam fully. Not like, you can't just study it like a scholar. So one can understand the Srimad Bhagavatam only by following in the footsteps of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, who was mad for Krishna. We cannot, of course, imitate Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. That is not possible. However, unless one is very serious about understanding Krishna, he cannot understand the Srimad Bhagavatam. So we're following in the prescribed method given by Mahaprabhu for becoming purified in the heart. And instead of feeling all this, what is it? Shakespeare says, I forget what it is now. The battering of outrageous fortune means outrageous karma. That instead of feeling that and feeling separation from what we want in this material world, which has no redeeming quality, then that same feeling of separation from Krishna is the closest association with the Lord. These are really high things, and there's only born of devotion, of pure actual self-giving without any motive. Srimad Bhagavatam gives full narration of Krishna's transcendental activities. The first 9 cantos explain who Krishna is, and the Lord's birth, seeming birth, and activities are narrated in the 10th canto. In the Bhagavad Gita it is stated, Janma karma chame divyam. Krishna's appearance and disappearance are transcendental, not mundane. A person is able to return home back to Godhead if he perfectly understands Krishna and his appearance and disappearance. This is verified by Krishna himself in Bhagavad Gita, Tyaktva deham punar janma naiti mameti sorjuna. So, Srila Prabhupada says, first of all, we have to read the first cantos. We don't just hop to the 10th canto for some enjoyment, like reading a novel. First of all, we have to understand the position of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and then we can become astonished by his internal pastimes with his devotees. Otherwise, we'll just see it as mundane and become deluded. It is therefore concluded that one has to learn about Krishna from Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita, and one has to follow in the footsteps of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. Those who do not follow in Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu cannot understand the Bhagavad Gita and the Srimad Bhagavatam. Any questions about that? Puna sanatana kahe jade duikare Prabhu Agya Dila Vaishnava Smriti Karibare. Folding his hands, Sanatana Goswami said, My Lord, you ordered me to write a directory about the activities of the Vaishnavas. So this is Sanatana Goswami. He has an order from Mahaprabhu to write. Directory means very like a systematized work of literature describing the activities of the devotees. We don't want to touch our feet in front of the deity. Muni nicha jati kichu na jano achara mohaite kai chehai smriti parachara I am a most low-born person. I have no knowledge of good behavior. How is it possible for me to write an authorized direction about Vaishnava activities? So who's saying that?
Chaitanya.
Well, no, Sanatana Goswami. I know everybody's tired this morning.
I'm sorry, I got distracted with something else.
It's okay, I'm just going to keep asking questions to help.
His foot, he got injured yesterday, so that's why he had his foot,
No, I'm saying we can't touch our feet in front of the deity.
Okay. I thought you were talking about how his foot was positioned.
No, not at all. No. It's just it's a small thing, but Srila Gurudev did tell us several times about that. But but
yeah, sorry about that.
No, that's okay. So this is Sanatana Goswami. He's saying you have directed me to make an authorized, systematized literature about the activities of the devotees. But he's saying I'm a low-born person. How will I do this? Actually, Sanatana Goswami belonged to a very respectable Brahmin family. Nonetheless, he submitted himself as a fallen, low-born person because he had served in the Muslim government. So he's saying, that's canceled out my birth. I was born in a very respectable, truthful, clean, regulated, devoted type of family, very good behavior. But that's all canceled. Now I can consider myself low-born. But they were pressed into service by the Muslim government. They had no choice. They were so exalted and brilliant, and famously so, that Rupa and Sanatana were pressed into the government service. But he considers himself like, how am I going to do this? Look at where I'm from. Serving others for a livelihood is the business of Sudras. The Brahmin is always independent and busy studying scripture and preaching scripture to subordinate social members such as Kshatriyas and Vaishyas. Sanatana Goswami felt unfit to write Vaishnava Smriti about the behavior of Vaishnavas because he had fallen from this Brahminical position. He hadn't, but externally. Thus, Sanatana Goswami clearly admits that the Brahminical culture should be standardized. And Srila Prabhupada is saying this because at that time, anyone born in a Brahmin family just was considered himself to be the highest person around, whatever his behavior was. He could be working in for other people or doing any old, and even eating whatever he wants and anything, but he's still a Brahmin by birth. So this is very much challenged by Srila Saraswati Thakur and Srila Guru Maharaj and Srila Prabhupada, and of course all of our Guru Varga. But very, very actively, Srila Prabhupada was talking about this, that he made Brahmins out of people who were born in the lowest families imaginable, not even part of anything, lower than Sudras. And so, and then Srila Prabhupada continues this to talk about this and the rest of this purport. So it's not by birth. Birth can be very, very helpful. You get a good start when you have good parents and a good family and good association, good society. It's very helpful, but not a guarantee at all. Sutrakari disha jari karaha upadesha apane karaha jari hridaye pravesha. Sanatana Goswami then requested the Lord, please personally tell me how I can write this difficult book about Vaishnava behavior. Please manifest yourself in my heart, saying you want me to do this, but you must help me with this. I'm unqualified. So, purport, the writing of Vaishnava literatures is not for function for ordinary men. Vaishnava literatures are not mental concoctions. They are all authorized literatures meant to guide those who are going to be Vaishnavas. Under these circumstances, an ordinary man cannot give his own opinion. His opinion must always correspond to the conclusions of the scriptures. Unless one is fully qualified in Vaishnava behavior and authorized by superior authority. I'm sorry. Yes, please. I'm sorry. One cannot write Vaishnava literature or purports and commentaries on the Srimad Bhagavatam and the Bhagavad Gita. Now everybody wants to write a book, but who are we? And what is our qualification? What is our connection? That is all important. So unless one is being called upon to write something, one should not just write it because he feels like it. Tabe tara dishaspure moni chera horidoy, Ishvara tumi jay karaha say siddhoy. If you would please manifest yourself within my heart and personally direct me in writing this book, then although I am low-born, I may have hope to be able to write it. You can do this because you're the Supreme Personality of Godhead yourself, and whatever you direct is perfect. So he's basically saying, you have to write this book through me. Prabhu kahe jai kari te kari batumi mana, Krishna say tomar karabes purana. Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu replied, whatever you want to do you will be able to do correctly by Lord Krishna's favor. He will manifest the real purport. Sanatana Goswami was a pure devotee of Krishna, and he has no other business than serving Krishna. Consequently, Krishna is always ready to help him. Tatapi eshu trera shuna digdara shana, shakarana liki adao guru ashrayana. Because you asked me for a synopsis, please hear these few indications. In the beginning, describe how one must take shelter of a bona fide spiritual master. So he's saying, you asked me to give you a synopsis. In other words, like a summary about this. The central points. So I'm going to tell you that the first is taking shelter of a bona fide spiritual master. The activities of the devotee will begin there. Guru Lakshana, Shishya Lakshana, Donhara Parikshana, Sevya Bhagavan Sarva Mantra Vicharana. Your book should describe the characteristics of the bona fide guru and the bona fide disciple. Then, before accepting a spiritual master, one can be assured of the spiritual master's position. So you should know what a bona fide spiritual master is. Otherwise, you put money in a box and you get a guru in India. Similarly, the spiritual master can also be assured of the disciple's position. The spiritual master should also examine the disciple. What is his position? And then I will accept him. Make him get some kind of qualification first and understanding. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, should be described as the worshipable object, and you shall describe the Bij mantra for the worship of Krishna, as well as that for Rama or any other expansion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So when we received Gayatri Mantra, we received mantras for worshipping also Radha and Krishna. So the spiritual master should be assured of the disciple's position, not just, yeah, sure, anybody. He's also looking, who is this person? The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, should be described as the worshipable object. Otherwise, what's the point of guru or disciple? And he should be described that way, like in a bona fide way. And you should describe the Bij mantra for the worship of Krishna, as well as that for Rama or any other expansions of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Hare Krishna. So this is a very nice purport. It's rather long, and you guys, if you have some time, you can go through this. But there are many qualities and qualifications that are being described in the scriptures. Look how long this is. Very long. I don't know, maybe we should go through some of this. It's very important to know that there are certain qualifications for understanding Krishna. And if we don't have them, then we should beg for them. So in the Padma Purana it is said, a guru must be situated on the topmost platform of devotional service. And there are 3 classes of devotees, and the guru must be accepted from the topmost class. The first class devotee is the spiritual master for all kinds of people. It is said, Guru Nrinam. The word Nrinam means of all human beings. The guru is not limited to a particular group. It is stated in the Upadesamrta of Srila Rupa Goswami that a guru is a Goswami, a controller of the senses and the mind. Such a guru can accept disciples from all over the world. Prithivimi sasisyat. This is the test of the guru. And then Srila Prabhupada is describing anyone and everyone can say that they're a guru and set up a temple. And there's a big competition in Vrindavan, in so-called Vrindavan, in the external plane of Vrindavan, the central plane. Who's got the biggest temple, the tallest temple? There's a big competition, because that will draw people who are curious about those kinds of things. And then that gets some, whatever it gets. But it's like Disneyland. You know, in Disneyland you see a big castle, but it's not really a castle. But it looks like one. But there's no king in there. So a temple without pure devotion to Krishna being practiced and heard about is not a temple. Sri Narada tells Maharaj Yudhisthira what a Brahmin is. He states that if Brahminical qualifications are observed in Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, or even Sudras, one should accept them as Brahmins, because that's who they are. They're Brahmins. It's by quality and work, not by one's quality and one's tendency. Will show what one's nature, not only birth. In this regard, Srila Sridhar Swami has commented, the most important criterion, quote, the most important criterion for deciding whether to deal with someone as a Brahmin or a member of another Varna is the presence or absence of self-control and similar Brahminical qualities. We should not judge primarily according to superficial characteristics like birth, or Srila Guru Maharaj said, blood Brahmins. This is stated in the verse beginning with Yasya. If the qualities of one Varna are seen in someone born in another, then he should be designated according to the Varna of his qualities, not that of his birth. There are many, 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 many quotes here that they're saying the same thing from the scriptures. But this was a very big point for Srila Prabhupada, because he was criticized by some foolish people and envious people for coming to the West and initiating Western people into Brahminical culture. And Srila Prabhupada said, through the culture of Krishna consciousness, one automatically becomes Brahminical. So why are these statements being made? They're being made by someone who has not taken the trouble to understand these things properly. Peacefulness, these are the qualities of a Brahmin. Peacefulness, Self-control, austerity, means they can do something difficult for a higher purpose. Purity, meaning one is naturally inclined to pure things that are not mixed with exploitation. Tolerance, honesty, knowledge, wisdom, and religiousness. These are the natural qualities by which the Brahmins work. So many things are in this purport. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur remarks that Narottam Das Thakur and Shyamananda Goswami, although not born of Brahmin families, are accepted as bona fide spiritual masters because they were Brahmins by qualification. And personalities like Sri Ganga Narayan, Ramakrishna, and others, who were actually born in Brahmin families, accepted Narottam Das Thakur and Shyamananda Goswami as their spiritual masters, although they were not born in Brahmin families. And even Haridas Thakur, who is the Namacharya, was not born in a Brahmin family. The Mahabhagavat is one who decorates his body with tilak and whose name indicates him to be a servant of Krishna by the word Das. He is also initiated by a bona fide spiritual master and is expert in worshipping the deity, chanting mantras correctly, performing sacrifices, offering prayers to the Lord, and performing Sankirtan. He knows how to serve the personality of Godhead and how to respect a Vaishnava. When one has attained the topmost position of Mahabhagavata, he is to be accepted as Guru and worshipped exactly like the Supreme Lord Hari, the personality of Godhead. Only such a person is eligible to occupy the post of Guru. So once one finds such a very highly qualified Guru, if he does not worship him on the level of Krishna, then he will not only make his own life very difficult, but he will also be rejected by the Lord himself. To disrespect a Vaishnava is a very grave offense. Krishna cannot tolerate that. He can tolerate disrespect to himself before he can tolerate disrespect to his very devoted servant. Haribol. Similarly, a disciple's qualifications must be observed by the spiritual master before he is accepted as a disciple. In our Krishna consciousness movement, the requirement is that one must be prepared to give up the 4 pillars of sinful life: illicit sex, meat eating, intoxication, and gambling. In Western countries especially, we first observe whether a potential disciple is prepared to follow those regulated principles. Then he is given the name of a Vaishnava servant and initiated to chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra at least 16 rounds a day. And that is also our prescription. The 4 rounds is because we don't have time, because we're so busy in service. In this way, the disciples renders devotional service under the guidance of the spiritual master or his representative for at least 6 months to a year. He is then recommended for second initiation, during which a sacred thread is offered and the disciple is accepted as a bona fide Brahmin. But he is also regularly chanting the Gayatri mantra. It's not just a piece of cloth thread hanging from his body. But if he doesn't do that, then we're only cheating ourselves to neglect when we invite the Lord to come into our lives and then completely ignore him. Even a guest, even an ordinary guest, you can't act like that. What to speak of the Lord himself. Yeah, Prabhu.
For the Gayatri mantra, is there a certain, do they go by rounds too, like japa?
Gayatri mantra is chanted on the fingers.
Oh, on the fingers.
So each mantra is chanted 10 times.
Oh, okay.
9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4.
And is there a certain amount of that you have to chant that our gurus recommended for Gayatri?
Yes, it's chanted in the morning at sunrise, and then noontime, and in the evening as the sun is setting, as possible. Because one has to be bathed, clean, tilak and clean clothing. And that Gayatri mantra is very helpful in our progress. The mantras are not dead things. The mantras are living and very purifying for us. So the Gayatri mantra is taking all material desires and transferring them to spiritual desires. And so it has to be chanted nicely in a nice clean place and with, proper concentration, and that is given after some qualification of a steadiness in devotional practice. So is that good?
Yeah.
Okay. The disciple must have the following qualifications. He must give up interest in bodily conception. So that's going to take some time, but that will be his goal. He's not going to be like, nah, I want to, whatever we do. We don't get into that. He must give up material lust, anger, greed, illusion, madness, and envy. He should be interested only in understanding the science of God, and he should be ready to consider all points in this matter. He should no longer think, I am this body, or this thing belongs to me. One must love the spiritual master with unflinching faith, and one must be very steady and fixed. The bona fide disciple should be inquisitive to understand transcendental subject matter. He must not search out faults among good qualities. And he should no longer be interested in material topics. His only interest should be Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So that's a nice one to print up. Shall I read that one again? The disciple must have the following qualifications. He must give up interest in bodily conception. So otherwise it's like rowing a boat with that it's a story that Srila Saraswati Thakur gives, the wedding party in Vedic tradition. Jai Shri Guru Gaurachandra Ki Jai. So in Vedic tradition, the husband, the future husband, the groom, with his party, with his friends and whatever, they may get in a boat to go over to the bride's place. And so the wedding party's been rowing all night long. And in the morning when the dawn comes, they're still in the same place because they forgot to draw up the anchor. They're like, so we can row, but we must be willing to draw up the anchor. That has to be our goal, that I'm going to release my connection with this place, with this position. But this will take some time, but we need to actually become that this is the goal of my life. And all of the situations in my life which bring out something in me, I have to examine those situations in terms of the Lord's will and see what is coming out in me under these circumstances, which I must look at. And I see this thing. It can be very dramatic. So these are the things. So he must give up interest in material bodily conception. What is a body conception for? Why in the world are we so dumb to think that we're a material body? Like, why would we allow ourselves to become that foolish? I mean, it doesn't make a drop of sense. But we buy into it because of what? Why do we allow ourselves to become so foolish? You know the answer. I mean, if we examine ourselves, we know the answer. If I want to exploit material nature, then I have to become dumb as dirt. I have to dumb myself down very much. We know that's not true. The whole thing is changing and it will be gone. Then what? But no, and running after the sense object. So it's not a sign of high intelligence to exploit or to identify with the body. But we do it because we're buying into a lie for some lower purpose. And those who we can exploit are also exploiters. We're not going to get in high class association through exploitation. We think we are exploiting others and making them our servant, but they also have their motive. Otherwise, they would never cooperate with that. He must give up lust, anger, greed, illusion, madness, and envy. So what are we going to do? We have all kinds of material desires, so what are we going to do? We have to live our life of a dignified life where there is some way of making progress in that zone through grihastha life, those things like that, and going forward in an honorable way, in actual friendship. That is very nice life. Otherwise, these exploitative lifestyle always ends in disaster anyway. I mean, we can see that going on everywhere. It will be a disaster, one day or another. If not during the life, then at the time of death. That is, but to live a life of grihastha, and lady and gentleman can live together, that is allowed in a regulated way, serving the temple, chanting our japa, helping each other with beautiful discussions, associating with the devotees and bowing down to the spiritual master, worshipping Tulsi Devi, all these things. The whole life can be so nice, and there is some leverage there for that kind of association, because we can't give it up right away. It's too deep. That is a deep one. That is very hard.
Which one? The exploitative association?
Yeah. Romantic association. That is a big one. It's a very heavy one to give up. Guru Maharaj said it's not, even intoxication can be given up. Even, he said there were men who would join with Saraswati Thakur who were opium eaters. But, there's some suffering a little time and then it's gone. That's so easy compared to the attraction, that addiction to being worshipped by the opposite sex. I need you to worship me. You worship me the best, therefore I love you. I mean, that's putting it in a very blunt way. But but with some sincerity of heart, one can marry and have some good association in spiritual progress. Otherwise, whatever. Same old story. Do we remember the people we were in love with in our last life? It's like, and it's all poop, out of mind.
Not even in this lifetime, past relationships.
Yeah, they're all gone. It has to be undertaken as devotees. with regulation, with honesty, and with a real sense of friendship. That I really want you to be successful in this human life and come to the plane of truth and help each other with that. And taking some vow about that. That's why the scriptures say, first marriage. Otherwise, no vow, no commitment. Everything a catastrophe. As far as mutual testing of the spiritual master and disciple is concerned, so one should not take a spiritual master whimsically. You should know what a guru is and find that guru. And also, the guru is not taking a disciple whimsically. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur explains that a bona fide disciple must be very inquisitive to understand the transcendental subject matter. As stated in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Tasmad Gurum Prapatyeta Jigyashu Shreya Uttamam, one who is inquisitive to understand the highest goal and benefit of life must approach a bona fide spiritual master and surrender to him. A serious disciple must be alert when selecting a bona fide spiritual master. So, one time, oh my goodness, I did not realize how long.
What time is it?
It's almost 10 to 9. So, but I will tell this story. That someone came to Srila Guru Maharaj, and I saw this on one video, and said, what if, somebody is seeking a spiritual life and he gets a spiritual master who's bogus, who's not bona fide, who's a cheater? And Guru Maharaj said, we are the architect of our own fate. That may be the fate of someone. So we should be very, very careful about approaching this bona fide spiritual in the direct successor line of gurus, and then bow down and love and serve him very nicely, and he will impart everything he has to you. This is really what the heart is seeking. And in the next life, Krishna will again come in the form of Guru to help us to continue. All right, well, this is very nice, so I think we'll stop. Jai, Sri Caitanya Charitamrita ki jai. Srila Krishna Das Kaviraj ki jai. Srila Om Vishnupad A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki jai. When I'm reading Chaitanya or any Caitanya Charitamrita or any of our gurus, Srila Prabhupada's books, I mean, he was really old when he was writing these books and doing so many other things at the same time. I mean, the trouble, not trouble to him, but the pain, energy put into these purports. It's an opus. No, if anyone did such a thing, and they can't actually, the quality of this book is not possible by any ordinary person. But if that's all that Prabhupada had done, that would be astounding to the world. But this was only one of the things he was doing, of many things. Opening up temples all over the world, giving lectures in person every day, writing letters to devotees all over the world, and traveling like anything. It's really complete. Srila Guru Maharaj really said many times, this is not humanly possible.
He was 70 something, right?
Yeah, I was like my age when he started out. Can you imagine? I'm like, I don't want to drive all the way to SoCal. That's too far. You want a steamship. It wasn't a passenger ship. It was a freight ship. Hare Krishna, Jai Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai. And Srila Gurudev said, he cut the tunnel for the message of Mahaprabhu to come to the West. And we're simply walking through that tunnel with no difficulty at all. So now we can read from Sri Caitanya Charitamrita by His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Rakak Sri Dardev Goswami Maharaj, Srila Guru Maharaj Ki Jai. And now we've read many prayers by him. Now we've come to this prayer, Sri Sri Daita Dasa Dashakam. Prayer to Sri Daita Das. Dashakam means 10 verses.
10 verses.
Yes. So Daita Das is Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And that means this was written after the disappearance of Srila Saraswati Thakur.
So this, you're talking about the book we're reading?
Yeah, at the end of this Prapanna Jivanamritam, there are these prayers which were composed by Srila Guru Maharaj in praise of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Srila Saraswati Thakur, Srila Gaurkishore Das Babaji Maharaj, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And this is another one that he wrote soon after the disappearance of Srila Saraswati Thakur. And this is the first verse. At the end of the night of Sri Sri Vishubhanu Nandini, she suddenly took him to her entourage. So in other words, Srimati Radharani suddenly took Srila Saraswati Thakur, withdrawing him from the company of throngs of grief-stricken souls. A great cry of lamentation arose. Their bodies were bathed by their tears. When he was thus stolen away, this world was plunged into the deep darkness of one whose eyes have been stolen away. Krita means stolen away, and Nayanamani, the jewel of the eye, the internal name of Saraswati Thakur, is Nayanamani. The internal name, Nayanamani Manjari, is his eternal name. So, Nayanamani meaning the jewel of the eye. So he's saying it is as though this Nayanamani was stolen away by Srimati Radharani, and it was as though our eyes were stolen away. It was so, the world was plunged into darkness. Bereft of the vision of my divine master, O my sorrowful eyes, Dina Nayana, wherever that great soul may be, please quickly take this servitor there. So this is an explanation of that last line. It's saying, wherever that, although he is my master named Nayana or Nayanamani, or one who brings us near, in his mercy he shows the miserliness of not taking me into his company. This is not real miserliness, of course. But from his lotus feet, the nectarian river, this is the second verse. From his lotus feet, the nectarian river of divine love flows throughout the universe. From his lotus feet, the nectarine river of divine love flows throughout the universe. His servitors, like bees, maintain their lives drinking the honey that falls from his lotus feet. And the pure devotees in the shelter of the confidential mellows of Braja revel in the bliss of singing the glories of his lotus feet. O Dina Nayana, wherever that great soul may be, please quickly take this servitor there. O Savior of the fallen is Dina Nayana, and also my sorrowful eyes means Dina Nayana. So wherever that great soul may be, please quickly take this servitor there. So he's saying, From his lotus feet, the nectarine river of love of God is flowing throughout the universe. And his servitors are like bees, maintaining their lives by drinking the honey that falls from his lotus feet. And the pure devotees in the shelter of the confidential mellows of Braja, they also are dancing and celebrating the joy of singing the glories of his lotus feet. That is not an exaggeration. The topmost position of this personality within Braja, others who are in that confidential position, they are also singing the glories of his lotus feet. He is an eternal servant of Mahaprabhu. And in those high mellows, which are enjoyed by Mahaprabhu, he is always there dancing. So those who understand those mellows and who are experiencing something of those high mellows, they are also worshiping his lotus feet. So we're hearing these things. And this is the third verse. Parental affection. Now this is comparable to comparing these things in this world. Parental affection, so highly esteemed in the world, is a colossal hoax. You know, hoax is a hoax means a big something that happened to cheat many people is a hoax. He's saying, if that parental affection has nothing to do with Krishna, then it is just a big hoax. What's so great about it? Socially recognized pure matrimonial love, married love, is nothing but dacoitry, means thievery, in that it steals away both the husband and the wife's eagerness for the chance to acquire the treasure of love, which is unadulterated by prejudices of this world. So that means matrimony, even matrimony, holy matrimony, by the scriptures, following all the regulative principles of the scriptures. He's not talking about ordinary nasty things. He's talking about religious life. If it is not centered on Krishna, then it is nothing but dacoitry. A dacoit is a person who is a thief and just a criminal. Can we see the truth of that? Where is the good of it? What's so great about it? There's nothing. And common friendship is merely deception. Friendship among those who have no connection with Krishna is just people deceiving each other. Looking like friendship, but it's actually just exploitation. You just need some company. And if we're really good at exploiting the same things at the same time, man, we're in deep, you know? It's like, what deep nonsense. I have gleaned these thoughts. Guru Maharaj said, these things are very clear to me now. Why? Because of the rays of the light emanating from the toenails of the holy feet of that great personality, the embodiment of supra-mundane affection, of affection that has nothing mundane mixed in it. O Dina Nayana, wherever that great soul may be, please quickly take this servitor there. Jai Srimati Kashishi Guru Gorge Kunraju Jai Shri Raj Govardhanju Ki Hari Bol.
I really like the green outfit. It's so beautiful.
So beautiful, yeah. Hari Bol. Jai. Okay, we'll continue with this tomorrow. This is a nice, beautiful, long prayer of 10 verses, and each one of them is a Bhagavatam full of knowledge, conclusive knowledge. The conclusions of the Bhagavatam are given in these shlokas.
In the Praparan Jivanamrita?
No, these shlokas written in glorification of Srila Saraswati Thakur that we're reading now.
Those are the conclusions of the Srimad Bhagavatam?
Well, what is the conclusion of the Bhagavatam will be found in these kinds of verses. They're conclusive. What is found many, many stories and many lessons in the Bhagavatam, the conclusions of those. What is the conclusion of that? That will be found in these shlokas. They are being found in these shlokas in a very condensed form and in the form of glorification of the Vaishnava. Where else are you going to find that? In nothing? It must be in the heart of the Vaishnava. Guru Krishna says, if you want to find me, you find me in the heart of my devotee. Don't look for me. That's where I'm living.
I remember when I took the Srimad Bhagavatam, the first canto. I brought it with me. And I was reading it in a coffee shop. And this old man comes up to me and he starts talking to me. And he noticed I had the Srimad Bhagavatam. But his advice was to follow, like, just remember that God's in your heart. And but to also, like, he said it's good that I'm reading the book, but you should also really try to follow your intuition more than what's being given to you. Like, you know, just like self-intuition, believe in yourself, you know, know God's in your heart. But, you know, I just thought, like, but I need some guidance too, you know, like I need to know how to, you know, come into full realization of who I am, all these kinds of things. And, but, yeah, he just had a whole different, you know, idea.
Yeah, there's not much progress there. Because we, you know, what is in my heart, what is in my heart right now, or the condition that I'm in this world, for example, it's not, the word perfect and the word me cannot be even in the same, it is now, but in a negative sense, in the same sentence. It's just not, I have many, many things to work on, and this is the Lord's grace that He's giving me many circumstances by which I can look at my own self, but there's a long practice there. And how am I going to do that? Just by trusting everything that comes into my mind. It's not possible. Of course, the pure devotees, their full relationship with the Lord is already manifesting, and they don't require to read anything, but they still read the Bhagavatam just for the joy of it. Mahaprabhu read the Bhagavatam. Not read it, and then, Gadadhar Pandit washing the pages of the Bhagavatam off with his tears. So these are all like things to remember. Otherwise, we will become, subject to so many prejudices coming in to influence what we think is spiritual life and so on. We will. Not that everything we think is wrong, but we have to always check it, Any questions or comments after that?
The Srimad Bhagavatam was spoken by Sukadeva Goswami.
Yeah, and then repeated by Sutta Goswami.
Repeated, like spoken as well?
Yeah, Sukadeva Goswami heard from Vedavyas. Vedavyas got the seed verses from Narada Muni. Narada Muni is the guru of Vyasadeva. Gave him the seed verses of the Srimad Bhagavatam. And he expanded that by his qualification into that Srimad Bhagavatam. Then Sukadeva heard from Vyasadeva. Sukadeva spoke it to King Parikshit, and in that assembly was Sutta, And Sutta went to the Naimisharanya and repeated it to the sages of Naimisharanya, headed by Shonaka Rishi. And then Vyasadeva took it to the market.
Vyasadeva himself?
Yeah.
Already written as a book?
Yeah, it was all written down and brought to the market.
Oh.
Guru Maharaj said, then it was taken to the market. Then it was given out to the general people.
In what yuga was this?
This is the very end of the Dwapara Yuga, just before Kali Yuga. Yeah. But it was after Krishna left. So the very first question that was given by Shonaka Rishi, we just read, he's saying, now that Krishna's left for his own abode, who's going to protect the principles of religion? Full circle. Huh?
We're going to be late for the second class.
I'm going to be sitting here going, where are they? Where are we? Okay. Jai Shri Prapana Jivanamritam ki Jai Jai Srila Om Vishnupad Bhakti Rakak Sri Darde Goswami Maharaj ki Jai.
Jai.
Jai Vishnupada Paramahamsa Parivrajakaacharya Astacharsati Sri Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Goswami Maharaj ki Jai. Jai Vishnupada Paramahamsa Parivrajakaacharya Astacharsati Sri Srila Bhakti Rakak Sridhar Goswami Maharaj ki Jai. Shri Rupa Nuga Guru Varga ki Jai. Sai Goswami Prabhu ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki Jai. Caitanya Saraswat Mission ki Jai. Haribo Jai. Parshad Sriman Mahaprabhu ki Jai. Parshad Sri Nityananda Prabhu ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shama Kunda Radha Kundi Govardhan ki Jai. Jai. Sri Caitanya Saraswat Mat ki Jai. Shaka Mat ki Jai. Sri Caitanya Saraswat Mission